This is the IT Director's Playbook, the podcast where we sit down with IT directors, ed tech leaders, and industry experts to tackle real-world tech challenges, honest conversations, expert insights, practical takeaways. Let's dive in. Todd Sanderson, Marshall County Schools. Welcome.
Right. That's right. Thanks for having me, guys.
So let's start with your journey.
Okay.
How did you get to be where you are?
So, we could probably talk the entire 20 minutes about how
Let's
I got
do it.
here, but my undergraduate degree was in agribusiness.
Okay.
And I worked for the Farmers Co-op system in Tennessee for about 5 years. And I just got to the point where I decided that I don't want to have to work every Saturday for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have to work 80 hours when it's planting time and harvest time. So I started thinking about what did I really want to do. And when I originally went to college, I had thought, I want to be a teacher and I want to be a coach. So I went back to school to get my master's so that I could teach and coach.
What were you coaching?
I coached baseball. Once I finally got the degree and got a job in teaching, I was coaching baseball and I was teaching middle school math and science. And I was always kind of the techie teacher, right? If there was a new piece of technology and they wanted somebody to try it out, they'd bring it to my room because they knew that I would be the one. If somebody's computer down the hallway was, they weren't able to print. Back then, this was in the early 2000s, so there were we didn't have enough text to go around, and in a lot of ways we still don't, but we certainly didn't back then. And if your printer wasn't working, it might be days before you get somebody to fix it. And so we established kind of somebody on every campus who could come down and reset your printer, those kinds of things. So I was the guy. And then after about 7 years of that, I moved into administration. I got my license to be an administrator. I became a building level administrator, assistant principal at both one of our high schools for 2 years and then 3 years at one of our elementary schools.
Okay.
And the tech director that had been there the entire time that I was doing all of those things, she announced her retirement, and they started looking for who the replacement would be, and several people recommended me for the job. And so nice. I got to step into that role in 2013. And I've been the tech director in Marshall County ever since then. So that's sort of my journey.
That's awesome.
It's a little bit different probably than some other technology directors. Sure. A lot of people start out as teachers or whatever, but I've met a few others that have gotten there that way. But that's my journey.
So that is interesting. You said it's not the story for a lot of tech directors. I actually bet it is the story for still a good number of tech directors. So we've got a pool that has the history of IT, and they are computer science guys, or they are the technical guys, and then they grow into the IT director position. And then you've got the principals, the teachers who they fill that role, and they are both have very good strengths and both bring something to the IT director's position. But for sure that we've got directors from all kinds of backgrounds. So you came from more of the teacher side.
That's right.
And a baseball coach. My dad's a baseball coach.
Yeah.
What did you bring to the table? Maybe you're not going to fix all the network issues and on all the IT issues, but you're still the director and you're still responsible for those and solving those problems. What did you bring to the table from your background?
So I love this question because I really do think that as administrators, thinking about the idea of a technology director from just an administrative perspective, I think that in education in general, we sometimes have this tendency as administrators to forget what it was like to be a teacher, or maybe if you weren't ever in that position, to not even have a clue what it's like.
Which
to
several
be a teacher.
have never been a teacher.
That's exactly right. If you've never been in those positions, you don't know.
Yep.
And I felt like when you say, what did I bring to it? I felt like I brought a level of understanding of like the client side of things.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I know what it's like to walk into a classroom one day and you're hoping that you're going to use your smart board and then all of a sudden nothing works. I understand how that feels and how frustrating that is. And, a tech director who didn't come through that path has no idea really. They might think they have an idea, but they've never really experienced
never been there.
That. Right. So I felt like that was a really good thing. Now, on the flip side of that, there's some weaknesses, right? Because there's a lot of this stuff that I did not, there's a lot of this stuff that I still don't know. There's 12 years down the road now, and there's still a lot of things a lot of the networking side, a lot of the, getting in there and configuring a switch correctly the first time without much trouble, those kinds of things. Man, I'm still not good at a lot of that, but I've always been willing to learn. I think that's why people recommended me for the position, was because I never was scared. Like if there was a problem to be solved technology wise and I didn't know how to do it, I would jump in there. And my attitude and the lady who was before me, she probably hated me because my attitude was, hey, if I break it, surely somebody can fix it, right?
That's exactly right.
So I'll jump in and I'll jump into the settings and all of that and click around and see if I can find the answer.
You can't learn it unless you break it.
Exactly. I've learned so much more from making mistakes in this journey than I ever did from just knowing.
Oh yeah.
And Google's your friend, YouTube's your friend.
YouTube University, you can't beat that.
Man, there's no telling how many things that I know now because of YouTube or Google.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, anybody could do this job if you just aren't scared to Google something and jump in. So that's how we get most of the problems solved anyway.
That's great.
Yeah. You said when there's a problem, there's always problems.
Oh, for sure.
You're building an infrastructure, you're building your ed tech for your district, but it's really crisis management and just whack-a-mole.
And what's a crisis for one person? A lot of the things that we get called on that are, this is an emergency, this is a crisis. It really isn't. When I was growing up, we had school with a chalkboard. So I am that old, but so you can make it through the day. There's so much of the stuff that we do that we depend on every day that people think is essential. You can't do it without it, but is that really true? I think we put too much pressure on that sometimes, but yes, there's always something, and it might be something as small as I can't get my monitor to come on. Well, have you pushed that button underneath there where that second button? There's two buttons. Push that second button.
Right.
Oh yeah. But yeah, there's always a problem.
There always is. I'd love for you to speak to the IT director who is overwhelmed. And it can be I'm sure you've been there where there's so many things and it's all technically
August.
on you. August, September. It's the worst time for every IT director.
For sure.
They're overwhelmed. The IT directors that I've seen thrive and be successful are the ones who can handle it.
Yeah.
Who can handle that feeling of being overwhelmed. And it seems like that's how you approach it. I'm not going to be overwhelmed. I'm just going to run into it. So speak to that IT director that he doesn't have enough help. He's got to figure it out. He doesn't know how to do it all because nobody does. But you just said, I don't know how to do it all. Speak to that guy who is overwhelmed. So
I'd say a couple of things to that. And the first thing that I would say is you have to find some way to be organized. It amazes me how many different IT departments try to handle the chaos without some kind of organization. Even if it's just a Google form that you put out there for people to be able to fill out and to put in a help ticket that way so that it creates a spreadsheet for you so that you know what's on the agenda.
Yep.
It blows my mind how many people I hear say, well, we don't have a help desk system.
Yeah, no ticketing system.
We don't have a ticketing system at
Email.
all. They just send me an email. It blows me away.
Or can you help me with this one thing? Stop you in the hall.
Exactly.
And then you get stopped by 5 people.
Exactly. And they get mad at you when you say, no, did you put a help desk? Well, I say, put a help desk ticket in and we'll get back to you as soon as we can because for me, it's not fair for me to stop and help you when these 12 people that I'm actually here today to see because they put in a ticket. So there's so many advantages to having a system in place that helps people to know, here's the process, here's what we do. And then the next thing that I would say is, even with that, in August and September, when that list gets to be 100 things long or 200 things long in the first 2 weeks of school when, everybody's been gone for the summer and they come back and the guys who wax the floors have disconnected everything in the classroom. There's nothing that was where it was when you left.
I think they get some sort of enjoyment out of that.
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Because the teachers have ruined their floors for so many
That's
months.
right. I'm just going to mess it up. And that dongle that they need to make that mouse work, I'm going to, it's going to be in a different drawer or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, I just say that when all of that happens and that list that you have has grown to 200 things, the best advice I can give, and this is a cliche, but, cliches are cliches because they make sense. The way to eat an elephant is
one bite
at a time. And that's all you can do. And you have to realize, look, nobody's going to die if they can't print today. Nobody's going to die if the internet is a little slower than they would like it to be, or even if they can't connect at all. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Just don't be lazy. Don't sit back and do nothing, because it's not going to get better then. But just one step at a time, go through your processes and get it done. You'll be surprised how quickly that list of 200 things is now 100 things, and then 50 things, and then 25 things. And we were talking to somebody else just a little while ago. Before we left to come to this conference, we had gotten our help desk down to 4 tickets.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, there's certain times of year where that's easier than others.
Sure.
But getting your help desk system down to 4 tickets is a doable thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't have a big department.
Right.
Our district is about 2,800 students and 400 staff, if you count bus drivers and everybody.
Yeah.
And for us and we only have 3 people.
Okay.
And so to be able to with 3 people, get down to where we had 4 tickets when we left. And lucky for us, there was snow while we've been gone, and we've been out of school for 2 days. And so it's not going to really grow while we've been gone. So it's going to be manageable when we get back. But it's just process in place, and then one bite at a time.
Yeah.
Just chipping away, and nobody's going to die.
Yeah. What ticketing system do you use?
We use 1-to-1 Plus.
Do you like it?
We love it. We've been using them for about maybe not even a full year yet, I guess.
Okay.
We had used Spiceworks free version for a long time, and loved it too. But we're a Google district, and Google was making some changes, as they often do, that sort of sometimes will break something that you're already using. And Spiceworks was going to be one of those things that we were going to have to kind of do some workaround stuff. And we hadn't paid for a system. So there's free stuff out there that you can use. It's not like you have to invest
What I'm
a bunch
hearing
of
is,
money.
what I've heard is, like, you can't do without a ticketing system. I think, like, for the IT director, probably most, they've got it in place. They're good to go. But for the ones that don't, like, you got to have a ticketing system.
You've got to have a ticketing system.
Yeah.
And if you can't afford one, get creative.
Yeah.
Like I said, Google Forms are free.
Yep,
Sure.
That's right.
And that'd be the first thing I would think of. If I couldn't afford 1-to-1 Plus, and I couldn't afford the extra effort that Spiceworks is going to take now, man, Google Form would be the minimum that I would do at this point.
So every IT director at some point is going to face a major crisis. So what are one of the biggest challenges you've had to solve?
I tell everyone that asks me a question like this that my biggest failure in the 12 years of, and you guys are really going to like this, you're going to say, well, you should have known about us. My biggest failure in my 12 years as an IT director has been intercom systems. You and I were talking earlier yesterday about we had one particular school, actually, is what I think of as my biggest failure. They had an old Simplex Grinnell system, and it was old. Okay, it was time for it to be replaced.
They all have their lifespan.
They all have their lifespan, and it was beginning to be a challenge, and it was beginning to be expensive to deal with. And so I started the process of trying to get them something better, and it was just a mess. I messed it up in just about every way that I could have. I ended up going with something that was cheaper rather than better. I ended up going with somebody that I didn't really know anything about. I don't even know how I got introduced to them.
Were you trying to Remind me, were you trying to Band-Aid it together versus get a new system?
This was going to be a new system.
Okay.
We were going to try to do a completely new system for this one campus. And they installed it. We had problems with it all year. It was a system that we ourselves couldn't troubleshoot.
Yeah.
It was all, command
That's right.
line
That's
stuff to make any adjustments. And we didn't know the command line. And so every time we needed something, we'd have to call somebody who wasn't even they didn't even live in our state. So they'd have to remote in. It was just so bad. And anyway, not to ramble on too long about it, but it just didn't go well. I didn't do my homework. I mean, that's basically it all falls back on me. And I've told that principal multiple times, I am so sorry for the way this went. Yep. I don't blame anybody but me. Yep. I should have done a better job. And since then, that has sort of, things have a domino effect.
Sure.
That has created this situation where I knew I didn't want to go that direction the next time we had to replace one. So I looked for the next answer. And it was fine, but still not where we wanted to go. But it was a company that was willing to come in and we can reuse a lot of the stuff that you have and save you some more money. Money's always a thing, guys. I mean, you guys know that. Money is always an issue.
Every district is going to say we would need funding. Every IT director is going to say that. Now, all districts are not the same.
No, definitely.
All right.
Not.
So
that's right.
I would love to hear, how have you gotten creative with your limitations?
Well, that's a question that actually I have to think back pre-pandemic for the answer to this question.
Okay.
Because since the pandemic, money's not been an issue.
Yeah.
We, over the last 4 to 5 years, it's almost been the opposite problem.
Okay.
Right.
Like, how are we going to spend it?
How are we going to handle all these new devices?
Yes. How are we going to handle all the new devices? How are we going to spend this money? How are we going to, and we still want to be responsible with it. We don't want to just waste it, but we got to come up with what's something that'd be useful that we spend this money on. Going back to your question and things that we've done to be creative, we have, and I guess this sort of fits in with the domino effect of things. We now have 5 different intercom platforms in our district.
Oh, wow.
Which is terrible. I hate it.
Right.
Okay. Because how do I remote into this intercom and how do I get into what are the troubleshooting steps for this one over here? Oh yeah, that's that school. I have to.
You don't even know what number to call.
Exactly. But what we had done before that I think was a time saver and ultimately a money saver was we had done our best to standardize everything that we could. When I first came into the district, we were all over the place with everything. We had different security cameras on every campus. We had different desktop devices, different kinds of printers, different kinds of copiers, all of that.
The Wild Wild West.
The Wild Wild West.
That's right.
And one of my very first goals was standardize. Yeah. We are going to standardize as much as we can. And that's been really good. We have, even with a small department, we have learned to do some things that a lot of other districts don't necessarily even attempt to do. Like, I don't know how many of the larger districts the funding's not an issue. I don't know how many of them stick their head up through the ceiling and pull cable.
Yeah. Yep.
But as the director, I've had my head in the ceiling a bunch.
Oh yeah.
Pulling cable.
Yep.
And so those are the kinds of things we try to do what we can, and then we hire done what we just can't.
Yeah.
So,
from what it sounds like, everyone makes mistakes.
Sure.
But I think your biggest growth period in your career kind of sounds like you've made your mistakes and that you've learned from them.
For sure.
So what's been the biggest, oh yeah, that was a home run. What was your biggest, we did that right. We learned from a mistake or not. What was your biggest home run?
I think to this day, the biggest home run in my career has been our security camera system.
Okay.
It's been one that we went through the process. We demoed the different things.
Sure.
We did our homework. Like I said, we didn't on that intercom system. We did our homework with the security cameras, and it all got installed, and it has just worked beautifully. And I have people who are not part of our district who will come sit down in my office, and I almost always have our cameras pulled up.
Yeah.
Just so that I don't have a window in my office. So
Yeah.
I have the cameras pulled up so I can see other people are alive and in the world, and I'll have people, even vendors, sit down and say, "Hey man, what's that system right there?" And I tell them, and they're like, "Not many people using that." And I said, "I know. Very few people are using this." When we have a very active listserv of technology directors in the state of Mississippi.
Yep.
We talk to each other a lot.
Right.
And when questions about security cameras get asked, nobody ever says the system I have. No, is it okay for me to say?
What system is that?
Okay,
Yeah.
Is it okay for me to say? It's WiseNet, but they're hand-walk cameras.
Okay.
But the
Shout out
software-
WiseNet.
That's right.
Yeah, shout out WiseNet.
What platform is it? IP, NVR, DVR? What?
It's IP.
Okay.
The cameras are all IP,
Yeah.
but I have an NVR on every campus.
Okay.
But the campers are connected to switches. Yeah.
Sure.
So I have storage on every camera
Yep.
and on every campus. It's not in the cloud or something like that. But man, it just works so great.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
The interface is awesome.
It's easy.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
interface is easy. My principals, after a 30-minute training session, they're good to go. They
Yeah.
don't have to call me and ask me to pull footage
That's nice.
for them.
That's nice. No tickets for you.
That's right. I never, in the course of the 5-6 years that we've had the system, I bet I've only had maybe a dozen tickets.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
So it's great.
What would you say is a common mistake you see IT directors falling into?
Trying to do too much probably is the answer to that. You come to a
controlling everything.
Well, yes.
Or
both could be the answer.
Okay.
I was going to give the example of, you come to a conference like this and you see all of this cool stuff, right? And everybody loves it, and your teachers are here, and they want you to do this, and you want to be
Hey, Todd, can I get this in my classroom?
yeah, exactly. That's right. And I want to be a people pleaser, right? If they think they need it, then I want to try to do that.
Sure.
But there comes a point where it's too much, and so you have to kind of know where to draw those lines. Back to your point too. I think about content filter a lot. I think about what we're trying to block and what we're trying to monitor, and we're asked over and over again to do more when it comes to that kind of thing. Now, SIPA compliance is one thing. We want to keep kids from getting to porn sites and gun sites and those kinds of things, and we want to be SIPA compliant for sure. But over the last years, since I've started, the list of things that we are asked to do, the monitoring of self-harm kinds of things and the classroom management piece that's in all these filters, it's just gotten to be so much that it would be nice to be able to go back to the days. And I'm not sure that there's a great reason why we don't, to where we only block what we have to block.
Yeah.
And we let the disciplinarians handle the other things. So I think there's always a temptation to try to do too much.
It is incredible, talking with different tech directors across the country, what you guys have to deal with. I mean, even when we were in school, just 10, 15 years ago, it was way different than what's going on. And, now I've got kids coming up in the school system, and, Jesse does too. It's incredible what you guys do and have to do. And it just keeps evolving.
And the newest hot topic is cybersecurity.
Right.
Yes. Yep.
Oh my goodness, guys. It is a constant thing that is on our minds. And the amount of money that we have to spend
Right.
to deal with that is on the crowd strikes and the Sentinel ones and the FortiGate, the amount of money that we spend every year from our tiny little department's budget just to protect the data
No choice.
of those kids and our staff is incredible.
Oh yeah.
And it infuriates me sometimes to think, what could I do with that amount of money every year if I didn't have to fight that battle? But you're right, Jesse. There's no choice.
Right.
There's no choice, because I don't want my social security number out there. I mean, I'm sure it probably already is, but I don't want my information out there because the school district didn't do their due diligence to protect it. And so I have to keep that in mind for everybody else. And so that's tens of thousands of dollars every year.
I mean, I think every IT director hopes they get to the end of their career and they didn't lose their network to ransomware. That would be, and we know the school districts that have.
Yes.
And
I mean, I've got really good friends here at this conference who have had to deal with that, who have, I mean, thank God they had cyber insurance, but they paid ransoms and those kinds of things. And it blows my mind that's just another expense that we have to think about in the day and time that we live in.
And don't think that we're absolved from it either.
Oh, I know.
We've got an insurance policy because we're in the tech space with you guys.
Sure.
We don't touch everything, but we're right there with you.
Yeah, because I mean, if it can be proven, if my insurance lawyer can prove that it was your device that got breached, then
100%.
they're going to come to you with their
right.
hand out too.
Exactly
They're
right.
not going to want to shoulder all that burden themselves, and so you have to do that. Every vendor here that has that kind of relationship with us, whether it's a software platform that has student data in it, or whether it's our, you guys sat right here the entire week next to our student information system. Of course, they're like, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I had all the data that they have. I mean, it's a scary thing. So. And I don't know that that's going to change, right?
No,
it's not going to get better.
We have to talk about AI because that's everybody's talking about it.
Yeah, sure.
AI, good sides, bad sides. It is going to be used maliciously for attacks. I'm kind of all ears. Like, what is your take on it? Where is it going?
So last
good
year
sides and bads.
Last year at this time, our position was ChatGPT is blocked in our district.
Okay.
AI is blocked in our district. We have since loosened that.
Okay.
And we are starting to see it used a little bit more, especially teachers. We have unblocked it for teachers for sure. And we allow teachers to unblock it for students if they so choose.
Interesting. So it's the teacher's prerogative.
It is. I mean, one of the platforms that we use allows us to, as long as we don't put it in a locked category, then a teacher through the classroom management software can allow a site for a period of time.
Okay.
And so we have loosened that. And, I'm like a lot of other people, I guess, or most people. I'm excited about it. I use it.
Right.
I use it on a weekly basis for one thing or another.
I use it every day.
I used it just this past week to write me out a list of instructions for setting up VLANs on a certain brand of switch.
Yep.
And you know what?
Amazing.
It was exactly right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like it walked me through the process with no issues, and it was an easy thing because I had that available. And I could have gone to the internet and searched for all of that or read the manuals and whatever, but just in seconds I had the answers to those things.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to be great. My fear for myself, and I this would be for a lot of people too, is that it's going to make us lazy. We're going to start depending on it to think critically for us. We think we can do that. We think that that's where this is going. And if we stop thinking critically about problems and we just feed all of our problems to that, it might give us answers. But what does that do to my ability to solve problems in the future? And I one of my strengths throughout my career, I think, has been I'm a good problem solver.
That is the critical. I mean, you got to have that as an IT director, right? Like, if you can't solve a problem, you're in the wrong job.
Absolutely, because you're going to have a problem every day, and if you can't figure out how to solve them, then you're going to be frustrated the entire time. Well, you're not going to keep the job because you're going to be horrible at it.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's really true.
Yeah.
And that's blunt, but if you're not a good critical thinker and a good problem solver, you're not going to have the job long because you're going to be so bad at it that your network and your infrastructure it's not going to be dependable enough for people to use. So problem solving is really important, and I have to remember to keep myself in check so that I don't let some computer somewhere in the data center do that kind of thing for me all the time.
Sure.
You use it or you lose it, right? Yeah. And so I don't want to lose that skill.
Do you see that? Because this obviously wasn't around when I was in school. Otherwise, it would have written a lot of my papers.
Sure. Oh, I said,
do you think
as soon as it came out, I said, man, if this had been around when I was a student,
there's
no question.
Right.
And I was a good problem solver, so I would have found a way to do it without getting
100%.
caught.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you.
So anyway, go ahead and ask your question.
Do you think that as a child who's being molded and learning, right, opening up AI, do you see that trickling down, losing that ability to problem solve and troubleshoot? Do you see that would eat away at that, or do you think that would enhance that? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it could, but I think we've been headed that direction for a little while now anyway, unfortunately. Yeah. I think we've lost a good bit of that critical thinking and problem solving.
Okay.
And coming from the perspective of somebody who was an educator, I mean, I know that's been something on the mind of education for 2 decades now. We can't let kids stop thinking. What the challenge is, not just to make sure that they know that 2 times 2 is 4, but to make sure that they can critically think about how do I now take that and do something useful with it. Well, I think we've struggled with that for a little while now, and there have been all kinds of things submitted as possible answers for it. No Child Left Behind, Common Core, all these things have tried to combat that, and now we've got AI coming along that's gonna take it off the plate, if we allow it to.
Sure.
And I think it could be an issue.
You think it's going to speed
that up? I think the upside of it is fantastic too.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's going to speed it up. Time will tell, I guess. Okay. I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah. If you could have given yourself what you know now, advice to when your first year as an IT director, what would you have told yourself?
Advice for myself as a first year IT director. Surround yourself with good people. And that might not mean that you get to hire somebody really good, because that's not always an option. First of all, your district may not have the budget for you to hire somebody good, because somebody good costs a lot of money.
Yep.
Okay. So that might not be the option, but network. Come to events like the one we've all been at together this week. Meet people who have solved the same problems that you're now facing. Network with other IT directors. Find a mentor. Do those kinds of things, because out there on your own, man, I don't know how people do it. I alluded to our listserv in Mississippi. Wow, if it weren't for it and being able to open up my email and type out, hey guys, my Wi-Fi is down today and this is what I see happening. What would you do to fix that? Within seconds.
Is that the first place you would turn? Is
sure.
that
Can you kind of give us a quick down and dirty about what listserv actually is, in case there's other states not using it?
Sure. So it's essentially a Google group. Now, when I first started, we had a server that lived in someone's house.
Nice.
That was
amazing.
That was serving all these emails. But now it has evolved, and it's just a big Google group that all of the technology directors in the state of Mississippi have subscribed to, and it's literally an email group. And if we have a question or a problem, we will email that email address, and everybody sees it. And we've got some great folks that just will respond and give answers, and all of those things. And if I can be that for somebody that ends up listening to this podcast, I mean, I'd love to do that. I mean, find a way to reach out to me.
That's a massive resource for you guys too.
I mean,
that's awesome.
I don't know what the contact information situation will be at the end of this, but
that might be available, and that's not the first place they turn. The first place they turn is Google. Yeah. And now they've got to watch 5 different YouTube videos, whereas they actually might have this available to them. Yeah. And just reach out to the right people here. Yep. And because you've got guys who they've been through it.
Yeah. Trying to do this on an island is I can't imagine how frustrating that would be.
Yeah.
And so I'm lucky. I do have a couple of really good guys who work with me. Okay. So I've been able to surround myself with good people.
Where did you get your talent? I'm interested.
It's interesting that you would ask that question. So the guy that's been with me the longest, who will take my place at my retirement, I've hired him twice, actually.
Did you have to fire him in between that?
No, I did not fire him in between that. I hired him as a first grade teacher.
Okay.
Which that's unusual, right? Him as a first grade teacher.
Yeah.
You'll find a lot of male first grade teachers.
Yeah.
But I hired him as a first grade teacher when I was the assistant principal at one of our schools.
Nice.
And I saw a lot of me in him. And he was the techie teacher on our campus. And
He come from your school district?
as a student, no.
Okay.
No. He's from Mississippi, but
Sure.
but he had another part of the state. And so he was that techie teacher and, could fix stuff and just a smart guy, good problem solver, that kind of thing. And when my previous tech left, I went to his first grade classroom and said,
Nice.
got an opportunity for you if you're interested. And so he was. And
How about
so
that?
He came on board about 8 years ago. And man, I look back over 12 years and I think about how much I've learned, and it doesn't compare to what he has learned in 8 years, because he really has jumped in there and sunk his teeth in, and he's learned a lot of stuff that I had to ask him how to do stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And then our other guy he also doesn't really have a tech background, but he was doing a number of different things for an eye clinic. And my other tech knew him, let him know that I had a position open, and just personality and willingness to learn again makes a big deal. I tell people all the time, and it's not something that a lot of techie people have, personality,
Right.
That's sort of a cliche and a joke too, that nerds, anyway.
So you didn't hire experience. You hired problem-solving skills and work ethic and relational
You got it.
people.
You got it. That's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
And it has really worked out.
Paid its
It has
dividends.
really worked out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome, Todd. Well, you probably have already covered all of these, but if you had to write an IT director's playbook, what would be the top 3 rules?
Top 3 rules are going to be, I think I probably have covered these. I mean, the first thing I think of is have a process in place.
Yeah.
And if that takes creating some kind of handbook for yourself so that you know what the processes are, and that's everything from, your ticketing system to a naming convention for your computers and your switches and those kinds of things. Have a process in place and know what that is, and try to stick to it. You can't stick to it every day, but have it and make sure that everybody on the team knows what it is. Because you can't stick to it every day, I think you also have to be flexible. Being flexible is so important, because what I have planned to do today, and I guess we didn't cover this one, but what I have planned to do today may get squashed
Sure.
by a real 911 emergency, right?
Yep.
By something that, the whole internet is down at that campus over there.
Yep.
And so we all hands on deck, go there, figure that out. So you have to be flexible. And then number 3 is just don't allow yourself to be overwhelmed. Just realize that it's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out. Take a deep breath, step back from the problem so that you can see it, and one bite at a time. And that's really how I've approached a lot of things over the years. And I think people have been pleased with the way that we've done things, and I think it's going well.
Awesome, Todd.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for jumping in with us.
Man, thanks for asking me. It's been a ton of
fun.
fun. It's been great to meet you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you stopped by.
Yeah.
Well, I actually robbed you from another booth.
Well, that is sort of true. We were talking at another booth and ended up over here together. But
That's right.
man, I've enjoyed it. It's good to meet you guys, and thanks for having me on to do this.
Thanks for being
It's
here.
fun.